Courage the mouse. A little brown mouse lived with her family and friends in a rich mealie, corn, field next to a countryside village. Like all mice, she was always busy. She kept her nose close to the ground as she scurried here and there, looking for things to eat and holes to explore. One morning, as she came out of her nest in the ground, she heard a strange sound. She stopped to listen, lifting her head and twitching her whiskers. She heard a rumbling, tumbling noise which sounded as if it was coming from far away, so far away, in fact, she had to concentrate in order to hear it. But once she had heard it, it seemed to grow louder and louder until it echoed inside her head. "What is that noise?" she asked one of her brothers. "What noise? I don't hear anything." Her brother hurried away to continue his search for food. The little brown mouse spent the rest of the day asking all the mice she knew whether they could hear the noise, but no one could hear it. The truth was, they didn't stop long enough to listen. It made the little brown mouse uneasy. Was she the only one who could hear the sound? She decided to ask the wise old tortoise who lived at the bottom of the field. After listening carefully, the tortoise put his head to one side and said slowly, "It's the call of destiny." Wise old tortoise spoke so slowly that you could finish eating half a mealie cob between each word. "Destiny? What's that?" she asked. "It's where to go and what to do with your life." The little brown mouse thought about what the tortoise said and then asked, "But why am I the only one to hear it?" "You can't hear it if you always have your nose to the ground. Also, only you can hear it, because each living thing can only ever hear the sound of their own destiny. You would not be able to hear it if it belonged to somebody else." The wise old tortoise collapsed after this long speech, his tongue sticking out of the side of his mouth. "Thank you, wise one," the mouse said. "Call me what for short?" Tortoise laughed at his own joke. It sounded like he was coughing in slow motion. Embarrassed, the little brown mouse scurried away. The mouse was curious, so the next day she went to the edge of the mealie field and stood there listening to the sound. She had to know what it was. She ran a small distance away from the field. Her little heart pounded as she looked around at the unfamiliar open veld, grassland. Her courage left her. She turned back, but crashed into something that must have been following her. She squeaked with fright. "Don't be afraid," she heard someone say. It was Minnie the meerkat. Minnie was standing upright on her hind legs, looking around. "What are you doing here anyway?" "I wanted to find out where the noise comes from," the mouse stammered, feeling foolish. "Ah, the sound of the river," Minnie said. "The river?" the mouse said in surprise. She wondered what a river was. "Yes, would you like me to take you to the river?" Minnie asked. "Oh, would you please?" the mouse answered. She ran next to her new friend. When they went over a rise, she saw something shiny not far away. "That's the river," Minnie the meerkat said. "I stand up now and then to look around so I know where things are." "Thanks!" The mouse was so excited that she ran on alone. The rumbling became louder. "The river!" She gasped in awe. It was beautiful. The water was tumbling over rocks, making white foam bubbles which fell and broke in a stream of blue-green water. Bullfrog was sitting on a round leaf in the water. "Hello there," he called in a deep voice. When he spoke, air moved the bottom part of his lip in and out, in and out. "What is your name?" "I don't have a name," the mouse answered. "Will you do something for me?" Bullfrog asked. "Crouch down as low as you can, then jump as high as you can." The mouse thought this was a silly thing to ask, but she did not want to upset a new friend. So she crouched as low as she could, and then she jumped as high as she could and fell, plop, into the water. "Oh, you are wicked!" cried the little mouse, desperately grabbing the long grass on the side of the river. Bullfrog laughed and laughed. "Oh, but what did you see?" he asked. The mouse climbed out and sat thinking for a moment. "I think I saw something in the distance," she said. That's Tabu-Nachu, the Black Mountain. Do you want to see the mountain? No, said the mouse. She had had enough for one day. She turned and ran home as fast as she could. You have a name now, Bullfrog called after her. It's Courage! At home, Courage tried to tell the other mice about the river, but they would not believe her. They were also afraid because she was wet and it had not been raining. So they started to keep away from her. Courage was sad. She sat alone, listening to the river and thinking about the Black Mountain. Then she decided she should go and look for the mountain. She left the mealie field and scurried across the open veld. Psst! She heard someone call. She saw a tiny lion hiding behind a bush. Who are you and why are you hiding? She asked. I'm Mr. Lion and I'm afraid of the mother over there. Courage saw an elephant nearby. It was as big as a house. I'm scared of her baby, Mr. Lion whispered. Don't you want to frighten her off so she will go away, please? You're joking, right? No. Don't you know that elephants are afraid of mice? Icona. No. Well, they are. All you have to do is run in front of them. Ready, steady, go! Courage darted in front of the elephant. It screamed in a high-pitched voice and ran away, ears flapping, the ground shaking. Scared out of her socks, Courage sprinted to a nearby rock and hid. Do you know what this shadow is? She heard a voice saying. She looked up and saw that the rock was an old black buffalo. Right in front of them hovered a shadow with huge wings opened wide. No, sir. It's a hawk, the buffalo continued. If it sees you, you are dead. By the way, my name is Ben. Pleased to meet you. Oh, what should I do about the hawk? Courage asked, worried. I will help you if you help me, Ben Buffalo said. I'm lying here because I'm blind and I cannot see. If you give me your eyes, you can walk under my body and be safe. Courage thought about it. She did not want to give away her eyes, but she was more afraid of the hawk. Finally, she said, all right. As soon as she said it, her eyes closed and she could not see. Ben walked across the veld with Courage running underneath him. Without her eyes, Courage found that she needed her other senses more. Hearing, smell, touch, and taste. They traveled for many days, and her senses were especially sharp by the time they reached the mountain. Here, Ben Buffalo said, I must leave now. You have to go up alone. Courage sat quivering with fear. She was alone, and she could not even see where she was. Just follow your instinct, Ben called as she walked away. Slowly, carefully, Courage climbed the mountain. She stopped often to think about where she was going and what to do next. When she reached the top, she was overjoyed. Then she heard the sound of flapping wings. The hawk! The flapping came nearer and nearer until she imagined she could feel the black shadow hovering above her back. Swoop! Something struck her and she felt herself soaring. The hawk was carrying her away. She uttered a shrill squeak, which became very loud because of her great fear. The sound of her cry seemed to bounce back, to come right back to her. Without thinking, she dived. That was when she realized she was flying. I can fly! I can fly! She said. Yes, you can, a voice said. I'm Ra, the sun god of Egypt, the place where all the African tribes come from. We're on our way to the sun. And when we get there, you are going to help me sail my boat across the sky while I carry the sun upon my head.